All right, ladies, gentlemen, people that watch us, people that love us, welcome to the final whistle. I am Mark. This is Kyle. Welcome to something that we've been long overdue on debuting. NFL's free agency frenzy is what we're going to start with today. Kyle, how are we doing today? How are we liking the worldwide of sports and the crazy things that are happening all over the place?
Yeah, I've been and first off, pleasant good evening to you and everybody that's getting ready to tune in. Yeah, it's been a weird month, not a weird month, but a fascinating month. We got the NFL, we got March Madness coming up. We'll probably dive in more March Madness next week when we get to the Final Four because there's still a lot of storylines to be decided there. We'll know a lot more next week, but great day. It's a Wednesday night. There's been a lot of news as you've kind of seen us allude to with the news of the Browns and the NFL, Mark. So
Yeah.
there's been a lot going on. What's been your takeaway over the last month of sports with between NFL and March Madness and everything?
Well, what I will say is, as far as the NFL goes, free agency and the off season, kind of started off with a bang, right? I mean, I'll call it the first 2 weeks of NFL free agency. You were kind of getting news every 2 or 3 minutes. Obviously, you kind of expect that from NFL free agency, but as far as NFL free agency goes, a lot of teams doing a lot of interesting and crazy things, and then you've got March Madness, which kind of popped in, and I mean, at first, obviously, that first weekend is usually one of the best weekends that there is when it comes to the March Madness outlook, right? So, I mean, we had that, we had some upsets, we had some close games, a few game winners, a few of the hometown teams had luckily advanced to the next round and played some great games. So, I mean, as far as the month of March so far, it's been a pretty crazy sports month to say the least.
Yeah, and Mark, we always talk it. We got to enjoy it because once late June, early July hits, we get that the preseason starts. NFL, we're just like, well, besides baseball, what's on? So we got to enjoy. Obviously, UFC's there, but that's only once every couple weeks. But so we have to enjoy it while we can. All right, so let's dive into this free agency. There was a lot to talk about, as we won't get to every single little thing because we'll be here forever if we did. So we're
Yeah,
going to
no
talk about
kidding.
just kind of the big stories. We're going to start with the Browns first, as they've kind of restructured their whole line with getting a lot of guys: Titus Jenkins, Zion Johnson, and a defense: Quincy Williams, AJ Espinosa.
Yep.
There's mark of Browns kind of please. I know me and you. It's kind of pleased a lot of people with what they've been doing in the offseason, especially on the offensive line.
Yeah, I would agree. And to those of you that are joining in, I've seen an influx of people just saying welcome in, welcome to the Final Whistle podcast. We have been going live about once a month, so those of you that are coming in, by all means, stay talk some free NFL free agency with us as we kind of cover some things. And welcome to the Final Whistle. But as far as the Browns off season goes, right? I mean, at least at this point, you and we talked about it when the NFL season kind of ended. You were going to really see once free agency started what way the Browns were going to go and how much they wanted to be win now as opposed to really rebuild, right? And I think personally, and Kyle, I know we've talked about this a little bit already. I think that the front office really moved into win now mode, especially this year and this off season. Again, being that they basically went out and got a bunch of veteran O linemen. They made some trades for O linemen. They signed the fellow from Green Bay. They who they once tried to trade for at one point. And they shored up some of that defense. We lost a couple of guys like your Devin Bushes of the world, but we got back a stud in Quincy Williams, which I'm sure we'll touch on here shortly. But when you kind of look at things, right, the Browns really kind of showed you not only, and we're going to allude to this again here, probably, excuse me, here in a few minutes, but I think they also showed you what way they are probably going in the draft as well with the way free agency went. And also a it was a very low key signing, but I think a signing that pleased definitely the hardcore Browns fans that know of some of the struggles. We went out and got a returner as well, a veteran returner after a lot of special teams blunders. You go out and you make special teams a priority in free agency. You sign your guy from Baltimore as a returner along with all those O linemen and things like that. So definitely pleased with how the Browns handled this offseason so far, considering it was kind of up in the air on whether or not and what they would be doing or not moving forward for free agency with our new coach.
Yeah, right. And that was a big key in the past couple of drafts. You really haven't addressed the O line. There's been a lot of injuries. The O line are just players that really did not work out. One comes to mention Dewan Jones.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
yeah, with his
he,
injuries.
injuries, or he just was too big to move. He's got to cut down some weight, and he's still on the roster. So if he does come back, I'd like to see what the new coaching staff could do with him. You got also, Wyatt Teller just left. He went to the Houston Texans on a
Yep,
couple year deal. So good for him. I wish him well there. But yeah, I like what they're doing. And there's also a lot of other needs in the wide receiver or defensive backfield, whatever. But this is a good start. We got Titus Jenkins, who we traded for a fifth round pick. We also got, Tevin Jenkins, who
yep.
did resign. So there's a lot of be interesting deal depending on who's going to be the quarterback. We still don't know. There's still, I doubt we're going to know until probably week one of the season, because
I'd
probably,
say bare minimum.
yeah, um, Sanders probably gonna start a preseason game. Watson's gonna start a preseason game. They're probably gonna flip flop back and forth. So they're both kind of mobile. So that's be interesting how this offensive line can move and get onto space if we do have, we get that running quarterback mark. But I like where we're going. Zion Johnson, 3-year deal. It's kind of an interesting. They kind of went. I went
Yeah,
like it. And then we go to the defense side. The one thing, we talk about Quincy, but AJ Espenza, I
yeah.
love it. He's a
High
experienced
motor guy.
guy. He could complement. He could be on the field at the same time as Miles if he needs to. I'm sure he will at some points during the season. 1-year deal, which is great. I think we could show what he's got, and more importantly, it's depth piece. If we don't, play him a lot, you still got him on the depth. So I like that. Quincy Williams, linebacker, if he could get into form. I know I was talking to a couple other people about this move. If he could get into a form and plays Pro Bowl style, we'll have a good guy. Because remember, Mark, we were talking about why they would not even sign Devin Bush. You remember everybody talked about him being a big deal and
Yeah.
big re-signing. He signed with the Bears, and then hours later we got Quincy Williams. So now it makes sense. But I kind of like how this offseason is starting, and especially we got the draft coming up in less than a month. It's a good start, and I like where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that sentiment. Obviously, we're still lacking at that tackle position, which I expect to be handled in the draft. That's the one thing that the Browns always do in the NFL draft is they'll draft a couple of tackles, pretty much no matter who's at the helm, whether it's a head coach, GM, whatever. But I mean, yeah, the Quincy Williams thing I think is not only a really good signing, but it's also a very interesting signing, right? Because he comes from a New York Jets team that didn't have the best D line. You're coming now into a situation where the Browns were largely considered a top five defense until they were on the field 90% of the time, right? So now he's behind a guy like Myles Garrett that you have to double team and chip and things like that. There's not going to be guys coming up after him. So I do expect a big year coming back from him as far as that's concerned. I love the signing of Espinoza as well. Again, a high motor guy that does give us depth. But I mean, I just think the really big thing for the Browns was doing that O line, right? They didn't really go young, they went experienced, but they also got guys kind of similar to how we did back in what was it like 2015, 2016, right? When we did get the Tellers, we got the Conklins of the world, where those guys were starting to become really good, but they weren't the cream of the crop just yet. And I will say, I am glad while I mentioned the name Jack Conklin, I am glad that they didn't try to bring him back because he was essentially
He
just on the
stinks.
team as name,
He
right?
sucks.
He had a good like first 2 years when we had arguably the best offensive line in football. We made our run, whatever. But since then, he's been extremely injury prone, and I'm glad they didn't really just like grasp onto straws there to try to just keep the guy that has been there. I would have liked to see Teller come back, even though I know that that was pretty much completely out of the realm of possibility. I was really hopeful that after a couple of the signings and things of that nature, that we were going to have the opportunity to potentially keep him. He now goes to a perennial playoff contender. But at the same time, I also think what you're seeing from the Browns, at least in the beginning, of this offseason right before the draft is they also understand that our division is still up for grabs.
Yeah.
You have the Bengals, you have the Steelers, you have the Ravens. The Ravens have a brand new coaching system as a whole. The Steelers, brand new coaching system as a whole. The Bengals have been what the Bengals have been. They're really good until they're not, right? So at the same time, I think our front office genuinely understands that we have an extreme opportunity to catch the division now if we just fill in a few pieces. And my hope is that what they're alluding to and what all the reports are saying, now obviously it's very early, but all the reports are saying that it is very, very likely that we go receiver at least in one of those first two picks, if not both of them. And obviously, we have three picks in the first like 34 draft selections total in the NFL draft here. So it'll be very interesting to see how they retool the rest of this roster, whether it's trades, whether it's drafting. I would love to see them go for two wide receivers in the first round and really round that room out before you get a tackle. I think there's some tackle depth in this draft where the top end of the receivers, they're going to be kind of few and far between. So we'll see how they do there. But I'm very pleased with Monken at this point in time and with Andrew Berry and the way they've attacked this offseason so far.
Going back, I we'll talk more. We're gonna get more draft conversation as we get closer. We're gonna have a whole special on it, a whole show on it coming up in a couple of weeks. Hopefully, we get a special guest on there. It's what we're working. It's probably gonna be sitting there at 6. I know real feeling from Georgia.
Yeah,
Who
I'm
knows what
seeing that a lot as well.
and your boy, the Utah tackle, who's
Yeah,
came out of
Fanu.
Utah. So I would be okay with one of those two along with a receiver. Now we don't get Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson maybe will be there 24 or 25 where we pick. That just depends if the team gets a little greedy and needs a receiver. But I think I think we need to go OL the first pick. I just think it's going to help benefit us to whoever's the quarterback because we need to protect our quarterback. And you said in the division because you got three new coaches and one coach that's a stiff that really hasn't done much
Yeah,
with
he's lucky to
Cincinnati.
really have his job at this point.
Yeah, he's lucky enough to have this job. As Steve chimes in here, he wouldn't mind trading back. I mean, there's been a lot of
I
talk.
think
Maybe
I
we
think
get
it depends on which draft pick as well, right? Because if we trade back from 6 and we go to like 10, I'm not opposed to it. If we can get draft capital move back up, if there's somebody there in those in like that late teens, early 20s where you might want to move 24 and that for somebody that you know is a for sure, like a surefire day one hit. I think it's going to all depend really on what we do. I think that number 6 spot is going to be extremely important for us based off of what should be there, whether it's that O tackle or Carnell at that in that juncture. I'm also seeing a lot of that receiver coming with basically the 24th pick and our first pick in the second round, being that KJ Concepcion is going to be there likely, and he had a really good year at Mississippi State and things of that nature. Again, we're going to do the draft special as well, but as far as the Brown offseason goes, I think the way that they handled free agency allows them to tackle a lot and a wide variety of things moving forward. And there's still a lot of trades out there, and there's still decent players available in free agency that we haven't even seen sign or whatever that maybe are holding
Yeah,
out on more money, might be holding out on potentially after the draft, realizing that teams once the league year starts are going to have a lot more cap space so they can get paid. We don't exactly know what some of these still high end free agency guys that are still out there, still sitting there. I mean, there's a big list. I'm sure Adam Schefter's probably tweeted it a few times, but now that the draft is a short while away. Obviously, they kind of take a back seat until the league year starts. But the Browns still have a lot of opportunities, and they have a wide variety of opportunities based off of what they've done in free agency so far and the picks that they have currently leading up into the draft. Yeah.
now there's a lot of people talking about Ohio State Wilson up there. They got to go top 10. Will they fall back to the Browns? The Browns decide to go defense, but I think you really need to that they do in what they do in the free agency is going to probably dictate what they do in the draft. Now they could be all set on Colonel Tate as Ohio State had their pro day today, and we'll talk. I know we'll talk about that in a minute because I know I sent some to Mark. Mark was not happy about what I sent him
Oh my
about.
gosh. You should have heard my fiance.
It's gonna be a waste of a pick, just like Dylan Gabriel, waste of a pick. So you better be sure if you trade back or go someone other than offense, it's the guy that's gonna be a diamond in the rough. Because if not, AB might be on his way out because that is going to be unacceptable, especially after a great draft he had last year.
Yeah, you've
He's
got
got
to
to
build. You
capitalize.
got to keep the momentum going from last draft and a good free agency. You can't drop the ball here while we're about to cross the finish line into a potentially game changing season for the entire franchise.
Yeah. So it's going to be very interesting how this plays out as the Browns. Here we go. Draft's just a couple of weeks away. Before you know it, we're going to be here. So let's see how they go. Well, obviously, the Browns aren't the only one making moves, as we're going to start with one of the big ones that happened like on the day of free agency, as the Pittsburgh Steelers traded for receiver Michael Pittman for a 26 six rounder and a 3-year extension.
Yeah,
And as a Browns fan, it sucks, but you got to tip your hat to them. They made a great trade, and they get some out for their offense with whoever the quarterback's going to be. We still don't know who that's going to be. You get another receiver because didn't really have a receiver outside of DK. Yeah, Calvin Austin, he left, I believe.
I think you
I
did.
think
Yeah,
yeah, Roman Wilson was like their 3 or 4. So this was a very interesting mark. I mean, I know we hate the Steelers because of the division and all that, but um, you got hats off to them because
yeah,
of the trade they made, and they got better in that sense.
yeah. And again, to those of you that are just joining
Sammy,
in,
welcome in.
welcome to the final whistle. Again, if you guys haven't caught us before, whether it's a pre-recorded or a live, we're here and we're talking free agency moves. Obviously, the Steelers, I think.
Make sure to like the channel and subscribe if you could, please. We would really appreciate it. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I mean the Steelers. I think they made some pretty good moves. Obviously, getting Pittman, making that trade, and I believe what did they give up? Like a fifth rounder as well. So, as Alex is tuning in while the Cavs are playing, Alex, we appreciate you as always. But I mean, as far as the Steelers go, I think they shored up some things, and I'd be interested to see where they go quarterback wise. There obviously hasn't been anything about Aaron Rodgers recently on one way or the other where he's going. And I know they signed our guy Kyle Mike McCarthy as a head coach, so
Yeah.
he's also come out and said that he really likes Will Howard as well. So I mean, if you're putting pieces around a young quarterback like a Michael Pittman, a DK Metcalf, they have Warren. They also signed a running back and Dowdle, as Steve kind of throws it out there. I mean, they retooled that offense around whoever's going to be that quarterback, and they should be pretty formidable. I think once the season starts, it'll be very interesting to see where they kind of end up in fall as the season goes. But another team in our division, unfortunately, that had a good offseason while the Browns tend to have a decent one themselves.
Yeah, right. And as we said, hats off to them because they still is it going to be Rodgers? Is it going to be Will Howard? And then the running back game
Or
is
do they
like,
draft someone?
yeah, they could. You never know. And they had Jalen Warren in the backfield. He's still there. Najee Harris, he's a free agent. He's been meeting with Seattle and the Raiders this week, as we saw as the reports came out. But it's
And
a
now you got
it's good.
Rico Dowdle, who has, I believe, back-to-back 1,000-yard rushing.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Steve. Unfortunately, yeah, Alex, I agree. It sucks as a Browns fan because they're having a great, especially in the off season or the backfield, the offensive backfield. And now you got the wide receiver. You just got to hats off to them. Now their defense can be questionable. They just re-signed Cam Hayward to a
Yeah.
1-year extension, and then they got they're retooling now. The quarterback now, if it's Will Howard, I think that kind of I don't know if that's going to push him over the edge, but I'm sure they're going to bring. If it's not Rodgers, they're going to bring in a
I would
a
assume
veteran,
so.
veteran at the
Especially, and I know, at least as far as Will Howard goes, he missed some time in the offseason or in the regular season last year as well. I wouldn't mind seeing him, especially with the way their offense is built. Now, obviously, they do have some work to do, pretty much regardless. But I wouldn't mind seeing him. Uh, I wouldn't mind seeing him there and essentially saying, hey, let's ride with the young guy and see where he gets us.
Yeah, so that's be very interesting. The Pittsburgh Steelers are, and they have a good. We talked about Mike McCarthy. I mean, I know some people were
We
kind of
wanted
against
him.
bringing on the Browns. I would have had him on the Browns at least for a couple years. Get the guy, you know, get the guy here, get the guy, or him to, improve our offense, improve the youngsters. Get him on the right track. But we go
Yeah.
with this we go with this old fella. So and Todd Monken. So it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out in Pittsburgh. All right, let's talk about the big story we want to talk about as what are the Ravens doing? Who is going to trade with the Ravens in the future after what happened as well? If you all heard, remember, they traded for Max Crosby. They were going to have probably one of the best trades of the offseason. But then,
Gave up a bag for him, too.
yep, and then, as Lee Carson would say, Mark, not so
Not so
fast, my
fast.
friend, as they got cold feet, as Crosby went back to the Raiders. Bengals or Ravens signed Trey Hendrickson from the Bengals, 4-year, 112 million. Came after the Crosby deal fell through, Mark, and there's a lot of bad blood now between the Ravens and the rest of the league, especially after how this deal went down.
Yeah, I mean, they pretty much broke the code as far as general managers are concerned and as far as the NFL is concerned. I mean, once you agree to a deal, now granted, as it was reported at the time, and obviously we were doing March Madness, and we had just gotten pretty much off the air at that point in time. Literally the day after we had recorded it started to come out, and there's been more and more drama kind of piling up after the fact, right? But I mean, it was a pretty much like a handshake deal. You could kind of do whatever because no trades were done until the league year. However, it not only that, it also seemed after you saw Crosby come out and talk about his side of the story, it also seemed like they put some falsifications out there to justify why they backed out of this handshake deal, out of this he said, she said deal. It's been a very interesting roller coaster to ride, especially because they do turn around basically the next hour. They come out. Alex, we appreciate you for that as well, and definitely
Enjoy the
go
game.
Cavs. But as far as I mean that trade goes and how that goes down, right? Well, I understand that putting the falsifications out there, being that Crosby came with receipts showing that his doctor did not, in fact, have those things about them, and then the very next hour after all this comes out, they go inside Trey Hendrickson for what seemed to be an even more team friendly deal than what Crosby had gotten, and they get to keep their draft picks. It was it was very interesting for sure to see it go down and to see kind of the he said she said about everything as well.
Yeah, and
And Sammy, we appreciate you as well.
yeah, Sammy is a cousin of mine. So, Sammy, appreciate the support here, brother, and Steve and Alex and everybody else that's come through so far. That's maybe not commenting but watching. But McKinley Gill, welcome in. But um, it's very interesting because how can you trust now? How can you trust the Ravens after this season? Like,
How can you trust them even after free agency? Like there's
yeah,
there's draft picks literally about to be traded in whatever a month span. They are perennial team. They're a perennial team that tends to try to move up and trade their picks, go after the guys that they want. How can you, like to your point, Kyle? How can you even justify attempting to make a deal with them? Because they might tell you one thing and then just bail on it the next.
yeah. And it's they got a new coach. They're still kind of running the same offense and the same defense, but it's
L Ravens is
it's
fat. See,
it's just weird. Now, obviously, we know the Browns or Steelers or Bengals aren't going to trade with them, so you don't got to worry about that. But everybody else in
no,
the league, like you know, when the Ravens start calling, especially if, let's just say the Ravens are in this come the trade deadline next season in 2026, and then they get and they're like, who do you want to trade for? If I'm one of the teams, I'm like, well, are you going to
I'm
back out?
declining. I'm declining the call.
Yeah, I'm calling it out right away. Are you going to back out? Are you going to come back, and are you going to just say accept it? And then if you guys don't feel like it, you're going to be like, oh no, we don't want to do it, anymore. So I think it's a bad precedence for the league, and
Yeah,
especially for the Ravens, because now I
yeah, 100%.
now Game of Crosby. I don't know, because some are saying it's medical records and physicals. I mean, it's gonna be he said, she said. We won't really know the truth. Maybe we will one day, but for now, I don't think we will. But
Probably not until he's retired, at least.
yeah, and I just think a way to the league trades now, because you
There's
just
definitely a
don't
rule
know.
change coming. I can say that for sure, based off of the whole league year, non-league year handshake deal thing. I would venture to guess that after such a big thing and such a big player moving happened and then didn't happen, I would expect some rule changes to be done at some point in this season.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it'll be this season, maybe next season, but maybe they go, okay, the physical has to be completed before anything gets. I mean, it could be accepted, but before any paperwork goes through, it's got to be, checked. It's got to be completed. The physical before, everything's signed and all that. Because if it says no, they could go back. But
Yep.
I mean, I don't think they're better player. I mean, let me put it this way. I think they're even. Hendrickson and Crosby. I think they both, have their pros, have their cons, but I get it. Trey's a little younger than Crosby, so I think that kind of maybe played a factor. But at the same time, you made this deal and then you just fall flat. Now, poor Raiders, they lose out on draft picks. We're forgetting about that. They had all
They
these
had a
draft
full
picks.
rebuild set.
Yeah, so now you got to go up. You had a plan in place. You got rid of Crosby. You get draft picks. Now you got to restart and recalibrate and just like, all right, what do we go from here? Now they're probably getting Fernando Mendoza in the
Oh, 100%. I would assume.
at the number one pick. Now there is a fall. I've been kind of reading and kind of reading up on that. I mean, it hasn't happened yet. Will it happen? It probably would have happened by now. But if they signed Lindenbaum, which was a great deal for them because they have that
Yep.
center to work with Mendoza. So we were hoping the Browns would get
Yeah,
him.
we wanted him bad.
But good for him. He got a good deal with the Raiders. But I mean, will it start trickle effect as of now? No. But if maybe they down, I mean, I doubt they're going to cut him because I think it wouldn't be fair to Lindenbaum or whoever. But the trickle effect could be something down the road, like we talked about, Mark, with the trades, that either with the signings or the money, because now you thought you had all that money off your books. Now you got to bring it back and
Yep.
reset it. So that's kind of frustrating too, knowing, well, it's like, a bank. Like you think you have all your bank account, like your budget set for the week, and then something happens and you either, you lose some more than you should out, or you get some back and it works out. But there's a no win here. I mean, a win for maybe the Raiders, but for the Ravens, you probably just opened up a can of worms you probably didn't think you were going to or did not want to.
Yeah, 100%. And I also think, like, it gets kind of weird with the Raiders too, right? Because they didn't necessarily have to go into win now mode. Now all of a
Right.
sudden you're right back into a situation where you basically are in win now mode all over again. Why? Because you have a player in Max Crosby that wants to win, that wants to be. I mean, he's largely said he wants to be a Raider for life, and I mean, I think we all believe him in that, obviously. But at the same time, when it comes to that, now you have to think about the fact that there's a guy in your locker room that has been a perennial Pro Bowler, a top five, likely a top three edge rusher in the entire league for the last at least 5 years. And now he's back in your building. And not only is it that he's back, but at the same time, he just got traded by you, and now he has to walk in and work like nothing happened. So,
Yeah.
like, I mean, I think Max Crosby is an extreme professional, right? But at the same time, and in that same juncture, what does that do to essentially the chemistry between basically all these guys, right? Because now you've got a guy that you I'm not going to say you have to watch how you react and what you say, but you kind of do at the same time because you never know what could set him off and be like, well, you just tried to trade me, so kick rocks.
Right. Yeah. But now it could have been a mutual thing. Like he kind of knew it was coming. We don't know. As the Raiders we're not going to know. Obviously, things like this we obviously don't know or may never know. But
Yeah, you don't
I
know
think
until you get the full story from somebody eventually.
now I think if the Raiders try to trade him again, and maybe there's some harsh feelings, but I think Crosby's more veteran enough. He understands, like, okay,
I think he
I'm
understands the business aspect
yeah,
of the league for sure.
that's the quote I was going to use. He understands the business. He understands what's taking place if he does get traded again. But we'll see. I mean, could it be a draft day trade? We'll find out. We get closer to the draft, but it's be very interesting to see. There's always that one shocker in the draft, especially in the first, second round, maybe where you trade a player.
Yep.
Here as we continue. But what about a big one? And I think it's going to benefit Kansas City down the road. Kenneth Walker III signs a 3-year, $40 million deal, 28.7 mil guaranteed. Mark, Kansas State did not really have a strong running back room. Now they get a strong running back room. They have to kind of fill the holes with the backup, but that's a good start getting the Super Bowl MVP in your backfield for 3 years to go along with Mahomes and Travis Kelsey once they come back together in the next year or so.
Yeah, I liked that move to get Kenny Walker, especially after the postseason that he had. I also I'm kind of in the camp as well. That not I expected them to get Love in the draft, the running back from Notre
They still
Dame,
might. You
obviously,
never know.
and they still and yeah they still might. But I think Walker earned his money. He earned his keep as far as that playoff run was concerned. And I also think that Kansas City with signing him and trading for Fields. Now I know how everybody feels about Fields, but I think that move shows you at least from Kansas City standards, as well as bringing Kelsey back. Granted, it's only for 1 year, and then they reassess for the next two. Basically after each season has ended, if they're going to bring him back or if he wants to come back. But it kind of shows you that they're while we thought that they were just going to kind of go away, do a little rebuilding thing, they're still trying to win now and utilize Andy Reid and what he has left in his tank while Mahomes is sitting there. Now they did make a lot of interesting moves because they also traded McDuffie off of that defense, which we've already talked to as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they draft, and maybe that's why they don't go Love and why it was kind of either get Kenny Walker or or get a running back in the draft. It'll be interesting to see how they kind of move forward in the offseason. But as of right now, they're having a sneaky good offseason as well.
Yeah, and now we don't know when Mahomes is coming back. They say he's going to try to push it for the start of the season. Could be a little later, depending
Yeah,
on
I
what
just don't
happens.
see it.
I I mean, I understand where the trade for Fields is coming from,
Yeah,
but
you don't want to waste a year with the roster.
right, I get it, but I don't know if I mean, does Fields get him to playoffs? I mean, look at that division. You got the Chargers, the Broncos, obviously the Raiders. We're not going to count the Raiders because the Raiders are just the Raiders. It's Chargers and Broncos who are probably going to be in the playoffs, going to be battling for the division.
Likely,
Kansas,
yeah.
yeah, and you just signed Travis Kelsey back to a 3-year deal, which was interesting. People really thought that was an interesting move of how they
Yeah,
did
I
it,
thought he was retired for sure.
or at least, yeah, at least another year. But it's interesting. I love
Yeah. That running back room all of a sudden gets real deep and real scary real fast. Yep.
last year,
And then you got
as you
rid of your
saw.
best defensive player, arguably.
Yeah, so and he traded him to the Rams. We talked
Yeah.
about that, but it's an interesting offseason for the Chiefs as well. But I like what they're doing now. Do they get rid? I don't know if Pat Mahomes be ready. Does Justin Fields make the playoffs if he starts part of the
I think
season?
he could be
No,
formidable enough in an Andy Reid offense to get them within potential wild card striking distance.
I agree, but I think
He did the
it
same
depends
thing for
on.
the Steelers, basically.
But how long does I mean? Will Mahomes be the same when he comes back? Well, you
Yeah,
got to
because it
see to
seems
be
like he is
here.
rushing it.
Yeah, especially if he's ready before this, if he's trying to come back for the start of the season, because one bad hit and boom, he's back on a sideline. Could be even worse than what it was now.
Yep.
But I we're I don't think Fields gets them in the playoffs. I mean they'll price win a couple games, but I think if Fields starts against the Broncos or Chiefs, I don't see them winning that. I
Yeah,
just
I
don't.
don't either.
I mean, they should beat the Raiders regardless. But and I agree, Sammy. So Mahomes will be Mahomes, but if he's not starting and then they have to play catch up, can he do enough catching up in the
Is there enough on
standing?
that offense to catch them up?
Yeah, I mean they're looking at. I mean, who are the really the receivers? There's that one guy that I forgot what his last name was. I mean, that's the only guy they got, but they. I
Rasheed
mean, you got
Rice, yeah.
not Rice, and then there was somebody else too when Rice was injured. But it's an interesting team to watch as well. I mean, everybody's an interesting team. What they're going on, but this is something to watch. I think going forward, Mark Casey, I think will be not a wild card in the playoffs, but a wild card team to watch throughout the
Yeah,
season.
I would
Maybe
agree.
I think we'll know more once we know how far Mahomes has come. If he starts week one, then I think okay, you probably add him back into the playoffs or at least
Yeah.
close. But we'll see. Yeah, Thorne, Worthy. I mean, those are guys are all speedsters. They're not really big body guys. They need a big guy like a Jordan Tyson or someone that could go up and get the 50-50 balls. But it's be interesting to watch KC throughout the off season to see if Mahomes is ready or not.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I mean, their receiver room does have some proving to do. You got to see if Worthy takes the next step, takes the next jump. He obviously has the fastest 40 in NFL history. But Steve, I would have to look on that. I think they might after that McDuffie trade. Looks like Kyle's taking a look. But I mean, if Worthy pans out the way he should, with him and Rice, they probably have a slight chance now that they have a formidable running game. But I mean, as far as the quarterback goes, with that being so uncertain, that's the difference between being and fighting for the division and being out of the playoffs completely. So it'll be very interesting to see how they handle things and kind of what they do moving forward, especially in the draft and things of that nature. I feel like weirdly enough, Kansas City is almost kind of in that Browns territory of they don't really know, like they have a lot of pieces to win now, but at the same time there's a lot of pieces still to add in to make it so that they're back to kind of form as they were a year, 2 years, 3 years ago,
Yeah, so they do have two first round picks,
which
the
is
ninth
huge.
overall, which is their own 29 from Duffy a couple weeks ago. So they're going to shake up the draft, I think, a little bit too. And it'll be interesting to watch who they take with the ninth. Do they go running back? Do they go wide receiver? Do they go? I doubt they'll go quarterback unless they think a Ty Simpson or someone like that is available and ready to go at that point. We'll just have
Or
to
do they
see.
just hammer defense?
Yeah, because it's definitely their defense was like we said was kind of crap towards the end, and you got people their defense walking on the field, and so
Yep.
it's gonna be very interesting to see how that goes with Kansas City moving forward. Another big one was this is kind of a interesting, not a league shakeup, but I think much needed for this team. DJ Moore traded from the Bills or from the Bears to the Bills. The Bills finally get a receiver. Will it be enough, Mark? But will it be enough? They fired their coach. They promote their offensive coordinator Joe Brady. They get another offensive weapon. Mark, is it going to be enough to finally get over that hump in the playoffs come January if they make it, which they should with that division they got in the AFC East?
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to, right? Joe Brady worked with DJ Moore. They were both in Carolina at one point together before they kind of both took the paths that they did. DJ Moore, another perennial Pro Bowl player, perennial 1,000-yard receiver, kind of no matter who his quarterback is, whether it was Fields, whether it was whoever the hell was throwing in the ball in Carolina. It switched every other week. And then you had Caleb Williams throwing in the ball as well, as they had their young pieces there. I mean, he's consistently producing on the field. And when you look at Buffalo, they had a bunch of no-namers running around, and I think they even lost a guy or two in free agency. So for them to give Josh Allen another number one guy that isn't as much of a diva as like a Diggs or something like that is. Now DJ Moore has been outspoken, but outspoken in a team sense more so as of recently in his career when he wanted the Bears to keep Fields because he didn't agree with how he was moved on from and things of that nature. But other than that, he's pretty much a quiet superstar receiver that's going to give you 1,000+ yards. He's going to make crazy catches. He's going to win you ball games, and I think when you pair him with Josh Allen, he's only going to get more efficient. We'll see what happens with the Bills in the draft, and we'll also see what happens with them and some of their draft picks from last year after the kind of clown show that they had with at the end of the year with the whole situation with draft picks from last year. Nobody wanted to really claim who did what and why and things like that. But the Bills were definitely very interesting. I agree. I think he is a really good fit in Buffalo. But it, Father Time is always going to be undefeated, and I do agree with you, Sammy, on the fact that when does he start tapping DJ Moore on the shoulders and those 1,000 yards drop to 600 yards, drop to 500 yards, and then you're back to Josh Allen throwing to a bunch of nobodies again.
I think it's a great move for them.
They had to do it. They had to do it
Yeah, but we were talking about this. Look how far they went in the playoffs
with
without
nobody.
yeah, with no receivers, a running back in James Cook, and obviously Josh Allen, and their tight ends Dawson Knox and Don Kincaid.
Yeah,
Now they get a receiver. It's probably gonna be number one receiver to get build around him. Now I'm sure they're gonna get a receiver in the draft.
well, and I
Or
think they had another signing as well. I can't remember who it was, but it was a relatively decent signing. Also, it wasn't as big as DJ Moore, but I
right.
think they did something else as well. That was pretty low key and still bolstered some of their rooms.
And Sammy, I don't think it's a falling out. I just think
They have, yeah, they have number one. They have young guys that they want to develop. Yeah, yeah, and I feel bad for the kid as well.
yeah, and he's a big. I would love him on the Browns. That big body guy. I still think the Browns need a big body guy to get those 50-50 balls. And maybe that's the Jordan Tyson, but I would not mind him on the Browns. Now people will be like, oh no, probably not. But I wouldn't mind him. He can win the 50-50 balls, and an older coach like Tom Munkin will set the record straight with him, not gonna all this BS and
Yeah,
all that go around. So I like where they're at there. But yeah, for the Bills, it's a great. I think it kind of takes the pressure off the tight ends now because you see like
a
the
hundred
tight ends were
percent.
made and James Cook because pretty much those three guys were four guys Josh Allen when he ran the
The
ball, but
entire
those
offense. Yeah,
you had
Shakir.
on the team. But now you kind of maybe it helps take the pressure off Shakir too, who could get open more when they know there's a DJ Moore there to cover, to get covered and to get guarded. But it's a great move for the AFC, and I think they'll be in the playoffs regardless.
Oh,
Either
100%.
wild card or the division. It just depends on where they are with
The
New
Patriots.
England. Yeah, we're at 1 and 2 in that division, just wherever they are, because AFC is not loaded. They
Nope.
we, there's a lot of teams that have question marks. So Buffalo I think is in a good spot, but first time head coach Mark just never know, especially when he's called plays but hasn't had to make decision making, especially at the highest level like the NFL.
Yeah, and I mean he's obviously been around as well, so it'll be interesting to see how he kind of molds into form. But again, I mean, when you have the ultimate equalizer and an MVP quarterback, there's always hope, and there's always situations, especially in Buffalo's standpoint, where he can make a lot of bad things into good. So it'll be very interesting to see. I do like what Buffalo has done so far. They don't need a whole lot of things to happen for them, but they did need to bolster some of those weapons, and I mean they started on the right track. So it'll be very interesting to see where they kind of move forward. And it'll be interesting to see what the Bears do next as well, because they're coming off another great season, and then you get rid of your number one for some picks. It'll be interesting to see where they go as well off of this trade.
Yeah, who will be how as I've said it in the previous, I've said it to you and a couple other people. How's the coach gonna respond? He had a great first year with the Caleb Williams and that
Yeah.
offense. Is it a sophomore slump, or are they going to hit the ground running and win division, get in a wild card, and get to make a run? They were literally a play away from winning and beating the
Yep.
Rams championship game where they fell. But it's definitely interesting to see the dynamic of that. But there's always trickle effect, right? And I think both teams are going to work out best. I think the Bears are still in a great position. Obviously, like I said, they got Odunze, they got Burden, they got Loveland, and
Yep.
they got DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monungai. So
Yep.
they got a pretty good offense. Just matter if
And
the
they've
coach.
got picks.
Yeah, they got picks. We'll see if the coach has a sophomore slump or not. I think that's going to be the key. If they can figure him out, and Sammy, right, one cold city to the next. So DJ Moore's with the elements. Like a Tua who can't play in the cold. He can play. DJ Moore can't play in the cold. He's used to it, so it ain't going to be a burden to him at all. So
Nope.
that's very interesting to see. All right, we'll move on to another AFC East. The Patriots signed Romeo Dobbs, 4-year, $40 million, 4-year, $70 million contract. That was a nice move by them. They got Savon Diggs. It does not seem like he's going back there, so you get another receiver. And I think it's a good move on both sides. Pats get like another 1A, 1B receiver. Dobbs gets out of the light of a Matthew Golden, a Christian
Yeah,
Watson.
a crowded receiver room.
In the season coming up.
Yeah, and I mean he keeps a good quarterback at the helm as well. I like the way Drake May played this season. Obviously, he led his team all the way to the Super Bowl. They have their running backs that take the that takes the pressure off the passing game for the most part. I will say Stevenson's kind of hit or miss at some points in the year,
Yeah.
but they also have Travion Henderson who had a great rookie year in my personal opinion. But I mean, yeah, it gives Dobbs the chance to shine. I mean, when he did have the opportunities in Green Bay, he made the most out of them, especially when it came to the fact that basically Love and Willis, when Love was injured, he was switching quarterbacks every few weeks just because of kind of the way things usually fell out in Green Bay. He had some good years there, and now he gets the payday. I would have liked him on the Browns outside of the fact that he's essentially the same exact player as the rest of our receivers that we have. He's just a little bit more proven. But I mean, I like the fit. I like the way he does things, and I think he has a really great chance to shine in New England. And same thing as with DJ Moore, he's not afraid. He doesn't have to worry about the elements because he's coming from New England. So he gets his payday. It's no different than how he was with the Patriots, and he goes from there and has an opportunity to really make his stamp on the league.
Yeah, right. And let's look. They had Keyshawn Booty, who came about last year. He was
Yeah,
their
he
deep
finally
threat.
showed up a little bit.
Yeah, he was their deep threat. He threw the ball. He was their long guy who literally caught Hail Marys and like literally fly routes to
Yep.
score. There was a lot of other people. They had their tight end and Hunter Henry, who was kind of hit and miss. Austin Hooper, who was kind of hit and miss. So it's a good signing. I think this guy's gonna get
It
his
gives him
targets.
a surefire weapon on the outside at least, if nothing else.
Yeah, and he, as Mark said, he was crowded in that room. He was the number one for a while till they got Christian Watson, Matthew Golden, who really didn't make a difference this year, but it's looking like he's going to be the guy to. He's going to be, one of the guys that's probably got to step
Yeah.
up, especially in this year, knowing that this is his chance to improve, not being behind anybody, probably on the other side of Watson, and
Yeah.
Watson is injury prone, so it's going to be interesting. Christian Watson can't stay healthy. As you remember, he was one of the guys to get injured throughout the season. I think he had a hamstring or something, one of his
Yeah,
legs.
he has
But
a lot of soft tissue problems, it seems.
so this is, and I think it's good for even all three sides: the Packers wide receiver room, the Dobbs camp, and the Patriots. Because now the Patriots, they get another target to throw to, and especially now when you need that playmaker. Now, will they go out and get a playmaker in a draft or trade? Probably. So I think it's very interesting, Mark. Especially you got Mike Vrabel, who can work his magic. We saw it last year, almost. Uh, uh, maybe we don't know if they'll get back to the Super Bowl this year, but
I mean,
if
they
they do,
definitely have the opportunity to. They have the weapons to. I think they need to kind of bolster up their weapons as well. Because you kind of seen it in the Super Bowl, right? They just didn't quite have enough compared to Seattle. Not only just on the offensive side of the ball, but on the defensive side of the ball as well. So I think they need to bolster up that offense, and this is a good first step.
yeah. Now, if they go into the season like this, which I highly doubt, obviously with the draft and all that,
Yeah,
but if they go into something like this, I think it's be
it'll
hard to
get
repeat.
dicey.
Yeah, it'll get dicey. It'll be hard to repeat what they did, but it's a good first step. Now, I'm looking at here. They got the 31st pick, so they got to wait a while unless they trade up or have some magic. If Robert Kraft has some magic up his sleeve, but I like where they're going with that. Now we'll see with Diggs. I don't Diggs did not end up anywhere, correct? I don't think. I
I
don't think
do not believe he was signed at all.
he did not sign yet, so we'll see where he goes, and we'll see what team's going to benefit for him because there are a lot of teams vying for him. I wouldn't mind him on the Browns too, but I understand he's probably going to cost a little more than what we
Yeah,
probably spend right now. So, but whoever gets him is going to be, in for he's. I mean, he should have been a number one in New England, but I think he lost. I wouldn't say lost his touch, but I think he kind of slowed
he
down a
definitely
little.
took a step back.
Yeah, he took a step back and he fell behind Booty a little bit. Wasn't really getting. Now that could be credit to being guarded and how good he actually is
Yeah.
because.
Yeah, he could have just been drawing the defense to him to the point where he wasn't able to get the ball in a run heavy style offense anyway.
Yeah, so we'll see how they go with that because it could be very interesting how the Patriots offense plays out. All right, a couple more moves we would like to discuss before we get you all out of here. But first, we want to send our condolences to some friends of ours, Tony
Yes.
and Billy. I found out last week that their cousin Josh passed away. I won't say if you're listening, Tony and Joey, or Tony and Joey. I'm not gonna say the last name for privacy reasons, but you know who
Yeah.
they are. Um, they cousin passed away last week. I got the or I got called and texted about it. So we were just sending
Yeah,
Tony and
thoughts and prayers. Yep.
thoughts and prayers. It's been a kind of a rough. I'm not gonna get into it, but just kind of a rough for their family right now. So Joey, Tony, I know those are amazing people. I went to school with both. We went to school with both of
Yep.
them. I
Good
graduated with
good guys.
yeah, I graduated with Tony. Uh, Joey was a AK. We call him Billy. He was a grade behind us, and Mark was a couple grades in front of us. But
Yeah.
we want to send our thoughts and prayers to them and their entire family. They're great. I got to know Josh playing some football
Yep.
from Turkey Bowl, and he was actually at the Friendsgiving I was at a couple during Thanksgiving time. So we do want to send our thoughts and prayers to those guys, and we're thinking about you guys through this difficult time.
Yeah,
So
100%.
okay, we're gonna continue moving on here. There's a lot of news. We're trying to get our thoughts. Let's talk another big splash. Mike Evans is heading to the San Francisco 49ers, 3-year deal. Mark, does does this get San Francisco over the hump? They got their number one target with Ricky Pearsall. Ayuk is gonna be interesting where he goes, but Mike Evans, they get their guy with CMC and Kittle. They're off. Could their offense make the jump to get back to Super Bowl next year?
At this point in time, they're basically playing with the fantasy football roster from a few years ago. I mean, if they had this roster literally maybe 3, 4 years ago, they would be Super Bowl bound instantly. Mike Evans, he is another guy that has a lot of soft tissue problems, but when he's on the field, he's on and he's a difference maker. And then and I think he'll open the way for Pearsall as well, being that Pearsall did have the shooting injury that he had in his rookie year, and he had some other soft tissue stuff last year. Kittle is kind of injury prone. So if all those guys can stay healthy, I think San Francisco becomes extremely, extremely dangerous. They basically trade Evans for Ayuk, and we all know Evans has the longest streak for 1,000-yard years as a receiver ever in the history of the NFL. I mean, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer pretty much. So, I mean, as far as that goes, if I think if the 49ers can stay healthy, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with on the offensive side of the ball. We'll see what that defense looks like after Warner coming off of injuries. Their defense wasn't that great last year, even Warner was on the field. So we'll see how they kind of try to retool that. We'll also see how the Trent Williams saga goes. It's been kind of low key, but he hasn't been happy. He hasn't gotten his new deal, and he's basically been saying, sign me or trade me. So obviously, with the draft coming, I'm sure it'll heat back up. But as far as I know, he hasn't gotten a new deal or anything like that. And he obviously hasn't been traded. Otherwise, you would have heard about it. So I think that's their kind of last big piece before the league year starts is what happens with Trent Williams. If they sign him back and get him to stay, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with as long as they're healthy.
Yeah, and this is a great move. I mean, Ayuk's been hurt. He doesn't play. There's been different, kind of differentiating between what the 49ers want and what Ayuk wants. So,
Yeah, he's been in and out the entire time for the last 2 years.
and they did sign him to that deal. So it's very interesting to see how they where Ayuk goes. But it's good for Evans. Now he gets out of a situation in Tampa. He was still thriving there, but I
Yeah,
think now he could thrive. I think he'll thrive better in San Fran. Now it opens up a lot in Tampa Bay now because still got Chris Godwin there. Ibuka should be
Ibuka.
step. So this could be very interesting to see how Tampa reacts and how they respond. But I think this is make or break. You got 3 years with Evans and you're and Kittle and and Purdy.
CMC, yeah.
If and CMC and Purdy, if they don't make the playoffs or win another Super Bowl within the next 3 years, I don't
I
think they
think
ever.
this becomes a failure.
Yeah, a failure with Shanahan. You're gonna probably have to blow it up at some point if they don't make it within the next two years because they literally have all the weapons there. Now, great, it's a hard division. You got Seattle, you got the Rams,
Yeah.
Cardinals.
That's the hardest division in football right now.
Yeah, and don't need to talk about the Cardinals. The Cardinals has been, they got a new coach. They just
Yeah.
lost.
If anybody from the Cardinals happens to be listening or catch this, please just trade Marvin Harrison and allow him to be saved. Please, I beg you.
Yeah, right. When
The
that
Browns
man's
will take him.
right. But now, so you don't got to worry about Arizona. But then you got the Rams, you got the Seattle, who all have good receivers and have
Great receivers.
Yeah, then JSN just signed a huge deal a couple days ago.
Yeah,
So
shouts out to him, and he deserved that.
yeah, so I like what they're doing. They're trying to go. I'm gonna say toe for toe, but they're trying to match that.
They're definitely trying to keep up.
Yeah, trying to keep up, trying to be like, look, we got a guy that's hopefully could be a playmaker and difference maker. Now, granted, Evans is hurt with like that spine clavicle injury where it took him out for the majority of the season, but it's a good move for them. The time is now. If not now, then when is what they say. So, I mean, sneaking as a wild card. I could see all three of these teams being in the division next year or in the wild card /
I would
division race.
not be surprised.
You want to talk about like the NFC East beating each other up? This division be beating each other up before we know it because there's going to be one or two teams that are going to or two teams are going to have to play the wild card. I think two wild cards. I mean, it's early. We're going to talk about this as we get going with the season, but I think two wild card teams come from this division. I really do. Plus the division winner, so that leaves one wild card. So I think this is what the difference between the AFC and NFC. You got a lot more less room for air in NFC than you AFC, especially with what San Fran just did to kind of bulk up the NFC West a little bit.
Yeah, I would agree. And I also just think that as far as that division goes, it's an extreme arms race at this point in time. So it'll be interesting to see who ends up winning that division. But if you basically get matched up with any of these three teams, I mean, you're in for a dogfight regardless when it comes down to the postseason, and that's for sure. I mean, you have to deal with Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua on one field. You have to deal with JSN on the other. And now you're having to deal with Mike Evans. Like corners are never going to get a break in this division.
Yeah, so it's be very interesting to see how that goes coming up in that division. Well, let's talk about the aforementioned division as JSN signed a huge deal, being the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. Mark, your boy from wide receiver U gets signed. And he's there with Seattle for the long term. See if they could run it back as the defending champs come September.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as far as Seattle goes, their gamble paid off, right? They got rid of DK, they got rid of Lockett, and they put all their eggs into the JSN basket. And what does he do? He simply just goes in and has a 1,700-yard career year, an offensive player of the year season. After this year, I think he deserves every penny of it. Unfortunately for him, however, now it's about can you be consistent in repeating that production because you don't have much else over there. Kenny Walker is gone. I I did like the rookie that they did have. He had a couple of deep threat 2 touchdown games. I can't remember the fella's name at the exact moment, but as far as Seattle goes, they keep a lot of pieces. I do, however, think that the loss of Kenneth Walker makes it so that they have to do something a little bit bigger in free agency or the draft or whatever the case may be, because I don't really think that they have the supreme offensive weapons to do what they just did again. And now people are going to be game planning for JSN even more than they already were, understanding that he can do it week in and week out. He showed it in college, and he just showed it again in the pros once he got his opportunity. So it'll be interesting to see how they move forward with that. But shouts out to him. I mean, we all remember his Rose Bowl performance, and then he comes in and sets the league on fire and is essentially unguardable for an entire season at this point. So I mean, he definitely showed Seattle that he was worth putting all the eggs into his basket, and now he's the highest paid player ever as far as wide receivers go.
Yeah, now here's another team that could set the cornerstone for the wide receivers. Now you got to build on that. You don't really have any wide receivers. You got Cooper Kupp. Okay, he's reaching his age.
Yeah.
I don't even know who you have for third. Like it's
I,
just
I believe it was, I can't remember if his last name is Thornton or not. I don't know.
oh yeah
He's
yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
But he's younger. I think he was a rookie this year. He had a couple of games where he had 2 touchdowns. For those of you fantasy owners, it probably made you extremely upset because this random guy dropped 40 points on you out of nowhere from Seattle, and you didn't even know who his name was. But I believe he's from Colorado State, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I mean, I would like them. I would like to see them get at least another piece or two because I don't think Charbonnet works out as a number one without any help either.
No, and do they? They're the 32nd. I doubt they're a trade up. Jeremiah Love's going to be gone
Oh, he'll
when
be long gone.
be long gone, so you could count him out. But it'd be fascinating what they do, especially the 32nd pick. They got a lot of receiver. They need some receiver. They need offensive help, especially in the playmaker spots with to help Darnold. Because if they, I just yeah, it's gonna be interesting what they do when you got two teams that really, or a team that ran the ball well. They didn't really know who their running backs were gonna be. They thought it'd be Kenneth Walker,
Nope.
and then Charbonnet took over, and then
Walker
uh,
took back over
Walker
after
took back
Charbonnet got injured.
flip flopping, and Walker had was so dominant, and asking fantasy managers like myself, where the hell was this performance when the playoff performance in the regular
Yep.
season? I don't. I mean, granted, playoffs are a different animal. You turn into high gear, especially when it is, but it's weird. It's definitely weird to see how that goes because it's just weird how that happens, and it's interesting to see where this team goes this year, especially being defending champs. No
I
one thought
don't
that,
see them repeating, but they're going to have a good enough defense to really make some noise.
especially Mike McDonald, defense coach. I don't see them repeating. I mean, I think they'll make the playoffs, but
Yeah.
could be the Rams year, maybe San Fran. I mean, I maybe the Bear. There's a lot of teams they could be like, oh yeah, they can make a run, but then they don't make a run. So it's very interesting, especially in that NFC. There's no, as we said, no room for air. But in that division, they gotta. I mean, they gotta keep track because look at the Rams. They almost traded for we talked about. They almost traded for another wide receiver.
Yeah.
Not Devontae Adams. Who did they trade? They traded for somebody. We were like, holy crap! If it actually went through. Forgot
Yeah.
about who it was.
I can't remember who it was, but they were about to make a very big splash trade.
Yeah. But they still got Devontae Adams. Still got Puka. Well, Puka. That's another story we talk about another time. But definitely something to keep an eye out. It's an interesting division. I just one division I'll be following along pretty much the whole season. I know Mark will too because of
100%.
what they have going on. And Mark, I'll just say this: there's no room for air, but just it's going to be a bloodbath in the NFC come September.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be every single week in that conference in that division. I mean, it's just going to be fireworks, and you're never going to really like for those of you that bet the way like me and Kyle do. You're never going to even know who to bet on at that point because
Yeah.
outside of injuries, everybody is so evenly matched and so high powered, right? Like it's gonna be extremely hard to pick each and every week. But for viewing fans, it's everything you've dreamed of.
Yeah. So football guys like us, because we love
Yeah,
football,
literally.
it's going to be very interesting to watch and see. So that's, I mean, we got a lot. I mean, let's talk about the quarterbacks real quick. Won't deep dive into all of them to save you guys time. But Malik Willis signs with the Dolphins. Oh no, let's do this real quick. Wide receiver, we forgot all about this. The big, as we're talking about the Dolphins, Jaden Waddle traded to the Browns
Yes.
in a very not surprising move because it seems like Dolphins are fully rebuilding. Mark, but here's another weapon with Denver, and this is Denver's time. If another question, if not now, then when for Denver?
Yeah, I loved that move for them. I think it gives them another playmaker. If he can stay healthy and get back to his form that he was at in his first 2 years in the league, they're going to be dangerous because you already know what Cortland Sutton can do. They have their running back room, which is extremely good. You have a quarterback now. Obviously, we'll see how he heals. But Bo Nix has played pretty well so far in his NFL career up to this point. He doesn't really turn the ball over a whole lot. He does well at I'll call it quote unquote game managing, and I think with that defense, the Broncos have yet another huge opportunity this coming year in a division that is kind of lackluster at the moment. With Mahomes being out potentially, the Chargers are kind of hit and miss and still need some pieces and things of that nature. I mean, the Broncos are poised for another long run with some more weapons, and I think Waddle only helps uh, put points on the board for that team and kind of ease the quarterback situation as well.
Yeah, and it's a good move. You know, they got Corn Sutton.
Yeah,
They got now they got Jalen Waddle. So I mean, if I'm a team like the Browns, maybe I'm calling for a what's see I'm forgetting a lot of people today. Usually it's not like me, but to call for their two or three or their third or fourth string receiver.
yeah,
I wouldn't post them patch not Tim Patrick, but whoever steps. See, I'm forgetting a lot. As there's a lot
yeah.
of
I can't. He's another rookie as well.
there's
That
a
had
lot
another good year,
there's
but
when there's a lot of stuff and a lot of names, you're trying to figure it all out. You're
yeah, literally.
trying to piece. And when we see him play, like, oh yeah, that guy. I'll be texting Mark like, yeah, that guy. That's what I was talking about.
Yep, exactly. But I mean, I definitely do like the move for them. I do think it opens up a lot of doors for them offensively, especially when it came to now. Obviously, Bonix was injured, but their offense just couldn't get going in the last couple rounds of the playoffs. So now all of a sudden you have um, lightning in a bottle, basically on the edge, and you have a real opportunity to really push the ball downfield, make some plays downfield, and he's going to run a lot of those intermediate routes as well, where Cortland Sutton's more of a short distance guy and then a deep ball threat. It'll be very in a contested catcher in the red zone. So you kind of fill out the rest of the areas in which that offense can attack. They still have a good run game over there, so it'll be very interesting to see how they game plan. And like I said, Sean Payton and Bo Nix have definitely been clicking and they've been working really well together.
And don't forget, they re-signed Jay.
Yeah. And their third string back, Jaleel McLaughlin, is also lightning in a bottle. I mean, he runs an insane 40. I believe it's like a 4.340 or something like that. He can house it whenever. D2 product from former Notre Dame College University as well as Youngstown State University. So, I mean, they have three backs that can hit home runs whenever. And now they've got a guy on the edge that can do the same thing.
Diamond in the rough. McLaughlin had to pick up when there was injuries hitting. He did
Yep.
well, but he obviously falls into the shadows. So it'll be interesting to see if maybe they move the Broncos move on from him. Maybe I don't think they signed him. I thought maybe they're wrong, but
He might have hit free agency and signed somewhere else. That'll be something that we can obviously uh, correct as we look into things. As we have a lot jumbled in our brains this evening, but I mean, yeah. And then you touch on the Dolphins. It was very interesting what they did, considering they signed Malik Willis to a good deal. Um, they were reluctant to trade Achan at all. So you've got Achan, you've got Malik Willis, and that's basically it. You're retooling a whole entire offense there in Miami. So very, very interesting to me, based off of the fact that they did sign Malik Willis. Now he is a younger fella. He had some good cleanup time in Green Bay while Love was injured. I do think he's poised for some good seasons, but he essentially has to end up chasing the money at this point and chase playing time. While now he walks into a situation in Miami where there's no Waddle, there's no Tyreek Hill. You're basically stuck with yourself and Devon Achan. So it'll be interesting to see
yeah,
how they move forward with that signing as well, and what that looks like. Probably not this year. You're not gonna be able to judge it, but in the years to come.
yeah. And Tua, he goes to the Falcons. What's
Yep.
going to happen there? What's Stefanski at the helm now? And Kyler Murray to Minnesota. So
Which I really like actually. The more I think about it, obviously nine as he calls himself, or JJ McCarthy, whichever one he wants to be, whatever hour he decides he wants to be, either one of those. He didn't show a whole lot of flashes this year. He had a couple of those game-winning drives, or what have you, but in the meantime of those drives, he didn't really look super amazing. He didn't really blow you away. So now you got um, Kevin O'Connell, the quarterback whisperer, able to have Kyler Murray, and he still has Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. So now you kind of work with an offense and a much better quarterback in my eyes. Plus that defense isn't too bad either. So they all of a sudden are back in the mix.
yeah, so it's be an interesting start to the season. Interesting where they go with the draft, but well, what a show! As we are excited, as it was an interesting free agency. I'm sure there's gonna be big moves, especially there's always that one trade that comes in the draft.
Yeah,
So
100%.
interesting to see how they go. But hey, don't forget, Mark, we still got the madness. The madness continues tomorrow night, and
Yeah, it does.
we're not going to really dive into it. We're going to dive into it more next week. Want to get the NFL free agency, our thoughts out there. But really quick, Mark, just one quick takeaway you had for the first weekend of the March Madness.
Um, For first takeaway, biggest takeaway, I'll kind of do it as my bracket goes. My bracket turned to shit pretty quick. Um, Darius Acuff Jr. probably worked his way into being a potential number one pick after this run that he's on. He has two 40-point games since the SEC tournament. He drops another 39 ball over in Arkansas, and then after his performances, you have Iowa taking down Florida in the Big Ten in college basketball. Um, I mean, running the Sweet 16. I believe they have 6 of the 16 Sweet 16 teams
Yep.
from the Big Ten. So shouts out to the Big Ten and Big Ten basketball for kind of running the show once again here in college sports.
Yeah, and not a lot of mid majors. High Point one. I love High Point's coach, especially after they beat Wisconsin. I love what
Yes.
they said. I love his. If you guys don't go back, find the video. But he was in the locker room. He's like, "Well, they said there was gonna be a short trip, but it was 40 other teams." So I thought that was. I love the coach, and I love. He's probably gonna get a head coaching job somewhere. If it's not this coaching cycle, next coaching cycle. So it's gonna be. Excuse me. Very interesting to see how that all plays out in the the near future. So we are going to break. We have the Final Four coming up next weekend. So we're going to break it all down the tournament next week and get you and set you up for the Final Four and give us our our actual thoughts on the tournament. We'll break it down. We'll break down some games and some highlights if we want to get through. We'll get through this weekend when we have until we have the Final Four, and then we'll
Yep.
really deep dive into it next weekend and kind of give our picks, our what's how is it our repicks for the Final Four because obviously it did not
Things
hold
have
certain.
changed. Yeah.
We lost Florida. We lost obviously Wisconsin. We lost Gonzaga. We lost a couple other teams. So we are going to kind of reset with that next week when we come back with you in a normal show. So Mark, any last words before we get out of here to wrap up episode number 34?
Want to say we appreciate all you guys that joined the live, whether it was early, whether it was late, whether it was sometime in the middle. We appreciate all your guys' support, and we can't wait to be back and doing it again. We appreciate you giving your opinions and listening to our takes on the whole thing. And again, like, subscribe to the channel, and we continue to grow here.
Yeah, next live will be April 29th, the last Wednesday in April. April 29th, we'll be back live here. I think the time's going to go back to 9 o'clock just because of schedules. But 9 o'clock, we'll be back here. April 29th, we'll remind you as we get closer. So we'll have a flyer out like we did today in the previous show. So we'll see you April 29th. We are back to normal next Wednesday recorded. And we thank you, Steve, Sammy, Alex, everybody that just came in,
Yeah.
everybody liked and comment and everything. We love you guys. We're just getting started. Episode 34 is done. Enjoy week 2 of the madness. We'll see you next Wednesday to wrap it all up and so much more. Goodbye.